Hi, everybody, and thank you for being with us today. I'm so happy that I have with us Yukta, and we are going to dive right into our topic, which is preconception and preparing for a spiritual womb. Thank you, Yukta, for being with us.
Thank you for having me. It's always a joy and a pleasure to connect and speak with you, Suzanne.
Yeah. So let's start by you explaining us what it means to prepare a spiritual womb and why is this practice so significant for prospective parents?
It's a far wider question, and I think maybe we can even have a whole webinar just only on this question. But for the sake of our conversation today and for the benefit of our audiences, for our viewers, let me try and bring it in a more comprehensive and concise manner. So, when we're speaking of conception, we're also looking at the father's lineage and the mother's lineage, which means we're looking at the ancestors on both sides. And when a couple is coming together, it becomes very important that they are very conscious of this fact that they're bringing the energies from both directions, holding a very sacred intention of the kind of soul that you're welcoming in becomes very, very crucial and critical. Because it's more about saying, I'm welcoming an element or an aspect of the whole cosmos into my body, especially for the woman. She becomes a receptor. She's like a chalice. She's opening up to um, the cosmic energy, where she's saying, let me be the soil. It's almost like putting a seed in Mother Earth. And it's almost, she's saying, let me be the soil to now give birth to a baby, take our generations ahead, continue our lineage, but also for the soul to be able to bring into their life, into their physical being, what their soul purpose is. So it's a combination of both. It's, as we said, it's the solar forces coming from the father, which contributes to our thinking ability. And our feeling life is so highly influenced by the moon. And those are the energies that we bring in from the mother. So a conscious conception, when we say spiritual womb, we're really saying energetically for the couple to prepare well in advance and say, we are so ready and ripe to welcome this soul. Not only is the soul feeling welcomed, but also the soul is now directed towards a very specific purpose. And when we say directed towards a specific purpose, are we saying we're interfering in the free will of the baby? Well, that's a whole different question, whether we even do have a free will. There is such great universal forces at work. But having said that, a soul that also wants to then take both the energies of both the sides and say, how can I take this to my advantage and how can I push what has to go ahead further in? It's almost like saying, how can we move from, to break it down simply, how can we move from this kind of an apple and then this kind of an apple and create a better one, which everybody wants. Every parent wants their child to be bright and intelligent and smart and funny and talented with all the gifts and skills. Having said that, it doesn't necessarily only have to be restricted to the external observations of a personality, but also so much more internally. How can they take their willpower and guide their path forward? How will this soul be able to navigate through difficulties and challenges when they meet with any kind of a crisis in their life? Do they have that spiritual blueprint?
Yes, that goes exactly for my next question because how does this impact this conscious conception, this thinking about having an intention and welcoming this child into the earth? How does this can impact the health, um, both physically, emotionally, spiritually of that child?
Yes. when we see in nature something happens and we feel maybe it's just a random act of, or something is just a coincidence, it truly is not a coincidence. So with human conception, we really want to move more into becoming aware of the moment when we're conceiving a baby, and not just for the mother, also for the father, but also for the child to feel that when the mother and father have come together, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, they've readied themselves. They're leading a good life. It's not just about creating a home and making a baby room with a cot and putting all the fancy things together. It's really more about knowing that physically they're able to hold a good discipline in their daily life. Their eating is right, their sleeping is right. The kind of social media that they watch is right. They're not just going on and on with things that are not. In India, we say it's not dharmic, and dharma is not religion. It has nothing to do with religion, but it's really more about righteousness. What is good for everyone? What we can say, we can where everybody can engage for their own welfare. So there's a soul waiting in the spiritual world, waiting to incarnate. And here the parents are coming together with all these intentions. And maybe they've spent 6 months, maybe they've spent 6 years trying to conceive. And the soul now feels, here is the template that's ready. Now this matches with what I need to go down on earth and do. And so that is where the whole play kind of, merges together. And then it gives not only the baby, as we're saying, a spiritual blueprint, which gets matched. And that's when the baby decides to incarnate, but also more about physically having a strong body, being able to take those intentions and, with the willpower, we say, being able to fulfill their life purpose. So, yes, coming into an expression of, if this soul had to become a great singer, or if this soul had to become a great dancer, then they definitely need a good physical structure to be able to pull that through. And having said that, even if it's just intellectual abilities, let's say we're looking at the soul had to become a great mathematician, or if the soul had to become a great, I don't know, a research scientist, they still need to have a good physical body, not have other situations which we're seeing crop up today, which was probably not the case a few decades ago. Is children are having allergies, children are having learning difficulties, we're seeing children are having attention deficit disorders. And of course, these are temporary labels we can give to the younger generation. Having said that, they're actually bringing our attention that there's something where things are going off. We're not in sync. We're not in rhythm with the universal frequency. So we're looking at matching those frequencies together. And yes, as I said, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, it makes a huge impact on not only the health and the well-being of the child, but also what DNA will come into expression. So which gene is now going to get expressed? We know about epigenetics saying how the environment is going to inform the gene, and then that suppressed or repressed gene is now going to say, time for me to go. You get active. And we don't want the unhealthy genes coming up. So that's where we're bridging this gap, and we're saying, let's become much more conscious and aware as the younger generation today is highly influenced by social media. And they do require someone to guide them, to nurture them, to hold their hands, and to be able to literally educate them, if not teach them, but inform them in such a way. Because earlier in our culture in India, we would have said all these wisdoms were coming down very naturally. It was very sort of handed down. It was very orally continued in a tradition.
It was very organic, wasn't it? It was very organic. It was just passed through naturally.
Also because we were living in communities, there's a grandmother, there are aunts, there are uncles, you see your other cousins are delivering baby. It's kind of all happening together. And so there wasn't much to be said. It was learned as you grew up. It was part of your life experience. But today that is not the case with nuclear and individual living. And a lot of couples are now not getting married. They just want to have a live-in relationship. Maybe they have babies. So there's a lot to be said on that. Yes, it's wonderful to say we're so in love and we're committed and we don't need to have a marriage, but there is a value to having a ceremonial act where you're committing and you're sort of allowing that stability to come in, that steadiness to for the soil, as we said, for Mother Earth. You don't want a shaky ground for the new soil
Yes,
to.
and as you mentioned, we are, we have very cultural diversity in the world. As you said, you are from India. I'm actually living in Norway. And are there any ways that these traditions are influencing the way people are approaching preconception, conception, preparation? Or are there some universal principles or practices that anyone can adopt regardless of their cultural background?
Beautiful question, Susan. Thank you. Yes, for sure. There has been, as I was sharing with you, culturally, there have been practices that were passed down and have been so part of our tradition and so part of our growing up. And as you said, it was so organic. Women usually have always been very strictly told, if I may use that term, to be disciplined with their waking up, sleeping, eating habits, whom they sit with, how they interact, and what kind of things they do, so that they're always much more in a healthy and receptive way to bring in life, to nurture that life, to hold that life, and even postpartum continue with with her own good health, not have postpartum issues with her health, so that she may enjoy her baby, so that she may have good babies at a good age, and then she may become a grandma and still be able to run around with her grandchildren. So let's break it down. Culturally, food has been a very important and integral part of India because we're an agricultural country. Natural herbal medicine has also been a very, very integral part of how women have taken care of themselves. Waking up before sunrise and having a bath and worshiping the sun before it completely sort of blinds your eyes, which means it doesn't have to be so sharp and strong, but really standing in the sun rays and absorbing those as part of your, not only just as a ritual, but also more as a scientific benefit to yourself on a daily basis. When you do it every day, it's almost like an accumulated effort. And of course, the sun god, we say, is responsible for everything on Mother Earth. Without the sun and without life-giving nature of the sun, the plants wouldn't grow and we wouldn't know if it's day or night. Needless to say that it's really the sun that gives us that force, that strength, that willpower. So yes, we can say in India we've chanted mantras in Sanskrit, or we may have certain specific rituals of going to a temple or worshipping a certain deity. But that doesn't mean that it takes away the ability of anybody else anywhere in the world to not be able to follow those things without having to necessarily speak the language of Sanskrit or understand why do I even have to go to a temple? I don't want to go to a temple. I don't believe in going to temples. And that's fine. But we all do believe, as we were just saying, that the energy of the sun has stood with us for eons. We can't even say it's centuries, maybe tens and thousands of years. So the sun has always been there. The moon has always been there. Mother Earth has always been here. And these are the universal energy sort of laws, as you can say, that we are all part of. In Ayurveda, we say we're made of the 5 elements. Within our body lies water, earth, air, fire, and space. And so how we combine those into our daily living It affects our mental rhythms. It affects how we emotionally respond to a situation. And those capacities will determine how well we can conceive as parents, how well we can nurture the new life, and how beautifully the newborn will be able to then take up all those physical and spiritual energies. So there are traditions and practices, which, of course, if the viewers would wish at some point in the future, we can do a very completely detailed invocation of how you really ask for a soul to be born. And while the mother is also going through her pregnancy, there are several rituals that happen through the 9 months. Her food changes every 3 months.
Can you open up a little bit the book about how those practices can be, or what are the experience that you have with those practices? Because that ultimately is going to affect not only the mother and the baby, but also the family around.
So again, coming back to the text where it has been outlined by a rishi, a saint, Rishi Pipalada, it's called the Garbho Upanishad. And the Garbho Upanishad is a very small text, really, but it dives deep into how the sperm and the ovum unite, the egg unite into making an ovum, and this was written, I mean, it's predated, it's beyond dating. So where I'm coming to is that understanding how life comes into being allows us to not only have reverence for the way that we have to welcome the soul. So there's a feeling that gets associated along with your intention of asking to, become a parent. Not only does this text show us on the biological level what's happening, but really also on the spiritual level, when does the soul start understanding how do the bones form, when do the organs form, and which planets are affecting the organs. So there's so much of astrology that comes into play. How does the mother understand that now she needs to start eating different foods because now she's nurturing this part of the development of the baby? When does consciousness really arrive in this unborn baby? So there's so many different aspects to it. And then, as I said, the first 3 months, which we call the trimester, is being given a period where we actually don't even declare that we are pregnant. Typically, we keep it as a secret. And having crossed the first trimester, it's kind of then announced maybe in the 4th or the 5th month. Sometimes people even wait till the 6th or the 7th month to actually celebrate with a ritual, which in the West is now known as a baby shower. But here in India or in the East, we do it as almost like a blessing. And the entire community comes together. The mother is, decked up in flowers and in traditional attire. There's a song and dance sort of culture around it. She is then not only given specific blessings so that the child who is being born, may the child have the golden aura like the sun. May the child go out into the world and accomplish great things. May the child bring glory to the family. May the child be at the receiving end of a lot of good blessings and fame and fortune. So there's a whole process behind the ritual where not only does the woman start feeling very precious and welcomed in the community and everyone's sort of blessings are with her, but now as she moves between the 2nd towards the 3rd trimester, she is also completely now restricted to travel. So she isn't expected to travel from the 7th month onwards. The scientific reason being, it's considered inauspicious. If at all, should there be a premature delivery, it's not considered to be auspicious in the last trimester. So come 6th month, that's the end of booking your tickets if you wanted to take a last holiday with your husband or maybe go to a destination. And also very typically, traditionally, the expecting mother would then go to her mom's house. So she's no longer either with her husband or with her in-laws. She's now at her mother's house, because she's going to be more comfortable in the home that she's grown up with women folk around her, gearing up for the preparation for delivery and the baby. But also, as I said, she's not required to travel anymore. So sort of putting her in a, in a place where then she doesn't have to worry about cooking and cleaning and doing things which she would have otherwise been taking care of as a responsibility in her husband's house. And now she can kind of rest and be more with the baby and start knitting a little dress, or a cap or some gloves or some mittens and things. um so it kind of really puts her into that space of, she's no longer an expecting mother, she's almost there. There's a lot of emphasis laid on the kind of clothes she wears. If there's going to be a solar or a lunar eclipse, she has to follow strict rules around that. She might be required to bathe at a certain time of the day so that she doesn't catch those vibrations of the universe, and it should not affect the baby in a negative way. So there's a lot of intricacies around these things, and then everyone starts preparing good, delicious foods. What do you want to eat? Is there
Yeah.
something you crave for? Sweet,
It's so
sour?
interesting because this is knowledge that has been, there for thousands of years, and for some of us, it feels like that it's the first time that they are hearing about these practices and rituals, as you are mentioning. I wanted to bring up also to our conversation about, because we are talking about preparing the sacred womb. A lot of couples are also dealing with infertility, and how the way that we can prepare for a conscious conception, and the way that we can prepare the womb so that those challenges that some couples may face can be overcome. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Oh, too many, Susan. I think this is a subject where not only do we need a very professional Ayurveda doctor or a gynecologist to really guide people, because coming from the East, coming from India, we find, I don't want to sound judgmental and say it's a demarcation between East and West, because there's so much of influence through the last few generations. I would say about 2 or 3 generations easily, where we see young couples even in India doing the same thing. And there's a lot of couples in India as well facing similar issues. The primary cause for all of this is being attributed to a bad lifestyle: smoking, drinking, partying, having late night habits, a lot of work stress, um, a lot of disconnection with your roots, with your ancestral roots. So, really understanding where your family and where your lineage comes from. And I would like to say, just their own sort of mental willingness to give up their own individuality. Because when you do become a parent, we all realize that we've grown up, we've seen our mothers sacrifice themselves and their needs in a way where you kind of, it becomes, your whole world view changes. It becomes so upside down that you're constantly first attending to the newborn baby, and your time schedules are all gone for a toss. Needless to say, you're not sleeping anymore. But having said that, it should be done more with joy and happiness. It's more about embracing this aspect of life. A woman is really coming into her spiritual initiation, if I may say so, because she's taken a whole being into her womb, and she's birthing a complete human being, and the kind of thoughts and feelings that she holds before she conceives, when she's pregnant, when she delivers, when she has a baby, is is a continuous lifelong process. We cannot say, oh, your child is grown up and goes into kindergarten, and you're kind of done with it, you can get back to working. And it doesn't work like that. I mean, culturally, we don't look at it that way, because culturally in India, women have never worked in the office or a corporate sector. I mean, they have worked, but it's more about working with the farm and the field, or doing, they're engaged with fine arts, music, dancing, creating, knitting, yes. But also in the ancient times, if we were to look at women who were part of, let's say, the royal families, even if women were involved with the military or the economic welfare, and they were into decision taking, they were holding very important positions. If it was a queen, she was really running the whole show. But there was never a loss of femininity. She was always in touch with her feminine side. She didn't become so masculine that she forgot her balance between how she's doing her role play as being a very action oriented person versus the intuitive, soft, nurturing, loving, caring uh, mother or sister or daughter that she's born. So biologically there was a lot of acceptance of what women can do even as warriors, and what women must not do, because it's not for their benefit. It's not good for their physical well-being, and emotionally it will affect them if they try to imitate men and try to behave like men and try to say, I'm equal. It's not about being equal. It's about being who we are and just sort of accepting and embracing that as a form of nature. And so the more we can sort of really lean back into those attitudes of life and approaches, I think we can come out of this situation of infertility. Having said that, I am a firm believer of Ayurveda. And so for me, I would like to, bring it in that how you eat, who you hang out with in your social circle, what you watch on television on screen makes a very huge difference to your cell biology, to your mental makeup, to your emotional well-being, and how well you can enjoy your own journey as a parent. So extremely important that people start realizing eating processed and junk food or living off rhythm with nature, or the timings, not being in waking up when you're supposed to be sleeping, it's throwing us off. Of course, needless to say, the 5G radiation is not doing anything to help us.
Yeah, yeah.
Sort
Is
of
there, because our time is running, I would wanted to make you a final question, maybe divided in two. What would be a takeaway that you would like a couple or a woman that is thinking about having a baby to take, and maybe a couple that is already expecting their baby to take? What would be something that you would think that it would be very important for their journey?
Yes. Let me start by where I began in the beginning. Refreshing our intention. Why do you want to be a parent? And if you've not yet clarified that to yourself, then maybe this is the time to really revisit that whole, is it something that just is natural? It should happen. Everyone does it. We're going to get pregnant at some point. Then we're still living in a very unconscious and unaware situation. And it's something that it just happens. No, we're here to make it happen. And having said that, of course, destiny plays a large part, and there's a lot of things that are already pre-programmed in the universe. There's so much that we can say is the cosmic energies already at play. If a child is going to be born, the child is going to bring the mother and the father together, and sometimes babies, they just find a way to get born. But so sort of weaving the second part of your question in, for couples who are already pregnant and expecting babies, or who are already on the verge of conceiving, have probably conceived, again, revisiting your intention and refreshing your, resolution. How can I do my best? What way can I transform myself? What are those family patterns or my behavioral instincts, if one may say, that I don't want to carry forward in the next generation? How can I wake up to the fact that this new generation or this new soul is demanding something out of me? And if we don't ask ourselves that question before we have a baby, oh, I promise you, Susan, as a mother, I'm sure you've gone through it. The child is going to knock so hard on your your beliefs and conceptions about certain things. The baby is going to knock you out of your feet. So the more that we're prepared, I think then we can meet that opportunity when the child is born with much more grace and with much more ease, compared to when we're not prepared for it. So yeah, I'd like to say, just really go back to the roots of how it was done in the ancient times. The task today and the challenge today, or really the crisis that young couples are facing today, is there's too much of misinformation on the internet. And there's a lot of fear-based programming or fear-based brainwashing, really, that the medical field is doing. There's a lot of doctors trying to induce cesarean sections, making a woman feel that she's not capable of a natural birth. She needs to take these pills, there's something wrong, and they'll do 20 different tests and she'll be driven crazy. And it's a very cold, and it's a very unwelcoming. I find it very inhuman, to be honest. Yes, modern medical research and science has its own place. In case of an emergency, we do have their skills and abilities in order to save the situation, whether it's the mother and baby's life or any kind of other medical intervention. But we're finding that it's completely gone to the other end of the extreme, where it's more about them controlling a couple and deciding for them, disempowering their voice, and not letting a mother feel into her own intuition, into her own instincts, and trusting that women for ages and centuries have delivered so many babies. It's the thing that we're born to do. And to take
Yes.
pride in it, to have the honor of being a mother is, it's the ultimate happiness for a woman.
Yes,
So
yes,
not
and
bringing that
having
down
a
to
baby, it's definitely a blessing, and it's something that it's beautiful, and it's empowering, not only for women but also for their partners, for their families. It's a whole new light that we are welcoming into this world, and we never know where that will take us. But thank you so much, Yuk. It was such a great conversation that we had today. I'm so happy that you passed through so much information that I hope that our audience gets. And if you need to contact Yukta, or you're going to always come to Prenatal Alliance, we will keep you in touch, and we will have all the descriptions of Yukta work here on this video. Thank you so much,
Thank
Yukta.
you, Susan. Thank you. Thank you. Bless you, my dear. Thank you.